space. The coast is as wild today as it was when Europeans settled the continent.
Enormous beasts with enormous thirst. The teens are primed and ready.
They got the first animal in space, and they got the first person.
Time to see what the boys can do.
Make massive moves with Starsat. Make massive moves.
The space race has already started.
Russia had got the first object in space.
The coast is as wild today as it was when Europeans settled the continent.
Enormous beasts with enormous thirst. The teens are primed and ready.
They got the first animal in space, and they got the first person.
Time to see what the boys can do.
Make massive moves with Starsat.
Maponga J, welcome one, welcome all again here on your wonderful show, Sankofa, looking backwards at the future. And as we spoke the other night, it was not enough, at least, that we had a conversation with the greater Venda tribe. And I thought today again we'll bring them back on station and have a greater conversation. You pardon me. I in the space of my own, history, I need to respect a little bit of the Venda people. That this is nepotism. This is nepotism at its best. It's nepotism because my grandmother is Venda. So if you have a problem with me giving Venda people an extra mileage, that's your problem, not my problem. So I brought back my Womakadzi and my uncle here to give me some extra information around the Greater African and the Venda tribes. And as you can see today, she brought me something, and I was actually saying to her, women put on this, but men don't put on this. But I was saying to her that we can rewrite culture. Culture is not stuck in the past. We can make it progressive. So apparently the tribe from the east, from the east, these are the Mbezis, and this one that go around across like this, the other tribes. So we actually have two or three tribes here represented: the north, the east, and the west in the Venda tribes. And the diamonds here for me would represent my grandmothers, my grandfathers, my grandmother, my grandfathers on my mother's side, on my father's side, my grandfathers there, on my grandfathers. Yeah, so there you have it. There you have it. And I want to challenge you that as African people, our grandfathers and our forefathers wrote history. They wrote information and they packaged it into art. And if you are not smart enough to go down and find out why this, you may think that you actually are traditional by putting on the cloth, but you miss the information that is right there. If you have been to doing a little bit of the Hebrew culture in terms of studying, you see the blues and the whites, both in the Venda cultures and in the Xhosa cultures, and even part of the Ugandan cultures. That blue appears, kind of the royal blue. So then the British come around in the 16th, 17th century. We have blue blood, we have the royal, and then they put the blue thing. But we've been doing this for the past 3, 4, 5, 7,000 years before that. So our argument for African people is that it's not just about you appreciating Venda culture in this, but understanding the information that our forefathers have left for us. They could not have left us a library. But if you had time to go through the way the beads are done, the way the material is done, the way the dots are done. These women who do these things never went to school, but they will tell you, no. You don't put it like this. You put it like this. You don't put it like this. You put it like this. And the question is, how do you know how to put it like this? Don't put it like this. Unless there's a DNA information that is transmitted, transmuted, transported from one generation to the other. And tonight will be very exciting. I'll talk a little bit. Someone on my Facebook wrote, Maponga J, you talk too much. You must allow other people also to talk. So, and I said, point taken. I will start listening today. I'll allow the two of them to educate me today. These are my grandmothers from the Venda tribe. And introduce you to us one more time to the audience out there. How do we call you?
Makadzi.
Makadzi. Beautiful Makadzi woman.
Makadzi Tshimangadzo.
Give us a bit of your totem. Makadzi, Tshimangadzo, wo?
Makazi Tshimangadzo wa.
Slowly. I know you. When people go culture, they go. No, it's go slowly. Makabo Makazi.
Ndi Makazi Tshimangadzo. Muduru wa Baleya. Ndi Mutwanamba.
Mutwanamba.
Ah.
Baleya. Ah. Okay. Beautiful. And my honorable chief, my elder.
Ndandona. Hi. Cultural Sekhitha. Neriva Komnar.
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 Komnar Mtangwe. Vana va Rufindo. It's a bit long. It's our praise song,
please
but maybe let's not.
No. I want to give you some time. This is an African show, and I know many people always say Maponga J. You're always complaining about European people and etc. But you are speaking in English. So when I have that moment of putting in African language, but the people who say that are colonized. Because if right now ndikatanga kutaura chikaranga ikozo tutanga kureketa nechikaranga tombodudzira tita chigume gudi yakoafa
arichanibva
ndosara ndotaura navanhu vaviri vekuzimbabwe.
Okay.
Africa yose zheve dzaita matsi kuti havangawe kuti ndinoti kudii.
Okay.
Saka vanhu kana vachiti inini iwo unogwa nenyaya yekuti varungu vakatitsikirira asi unoda kutaura nechirungu. Taura norurimi rwamai vako. Nokuti kana uchiti chirungu chakaipa chiukereketa nechikaranga ndotanga kukereketa nechikaranga ikozo, and 1.2 billion people are in the dark. So I speak in English, not because I agree to be colonized, but I speak in English so that I can communicate. So I want you to introduce yourself properly. In vendor culture, if it takes us 20 minutes, I'll wait.
No, well, let's not be stingy.
Let's start.
But yeah,
and you are slowly. You hit one, then you wait. I must hear it in my spirit.
Hi, Neriva Ngona va Komnar.
Wangona.
Richie Direnda Riri. Komunara Mutango. Vana va Rufindo. Votamba Rufucha Manyachi.
Vofita Manya.
Fumbamtoro.
Vofambamtobo.
Chisali Undori Gwena Nindori. Let's end there. With a bit of time, one could actually translate.
But remember, in African culture, actually, when the king or the chief is talking, you must need a witness.
Yes, of course.
So that whatever they are saying, someone must be responding. Mukanya. Shambane gori muti. Unachiramba kusisira muti. Hona kuchigara makwe matanda anobora muti. Hekani waro. Tisuwana chiwechitiza chinobugwa na mamanga then go how here he one of the gen. So there's always that kind of communication between the poet and the community, because you're not talking alone, but while you're talking, someone must be there to respond.
And in fact, I think within the Venda royalty, I think at least in South Africa, they are the only ones who have their own special language. We call it Ruambo. So Ramsan is a court speech, maybe if you want to put
the way
it
you
like
speak
that.
in a court.
Yeah, I mean court speech like this is the language preserved or reserved specifically
for the kings,
for
the
royalty.
Crow.
So, well, it will be the same Venda language in the sense that everybody will understand it. But
it is spoken.
Yeah, they have their own way of calling things that as the commoners will call whatever. For example, if you take a drinking gourd, we will call it carbo.
Carbo.
Yeah, the one that you dip into
calabash.
the water and you drink.
I have one in my house. I should have brought it.
Yeah, in the royal court they will call that ngwena.
Ngwena.
Yes, for example, a fire, fire, we will call it muriro, as the commoners.
Moto, muriro.
Yeah, but then they will call it padu.
Padu. Yes.
And a chief does not.
No,
they just call it, it's called, they simply call it padu. And then, for example, a chief does not, he does not speak.
Someone speaks for you.
And no, he belches or uzwa.
What?
Uzwa. He doesn't speak. They ask the commoners.
In Shona, uzwa is kuzwa.
Yeah, as the commoners, we speak or uamba.
In the call.
But the chief himself, uto uzwa. You know, like a lion. You know, a lion. So he belches. So it's a whole lot of things, and so basically, I don't think any other royal families have their own special court speech, if you can put it like that.
Royals.
You find it among those. And of course, when a royal person is speaking, there has to be somebody who has to, you know, like what you were doing, ukumera. You know, when he talks, there's somebody who... Yeah, yes, he will be singing his praises and all those things. Sometimes you see it on Mubango, Marunga Tsindeverao, Churu Chamadin, and all those things, and so on and so on. Chiuru Chamadin, like an anthill in the water. I mean, it's very rare. It's almost... In Shona? Almost impossible to find, but... Churu in Venda. In Shona, Churu. Yes.
Is it the same thing?
Yes.
Churuja?
Chamadini. Yeah, like this anthill that you'll find inside the water.
So in Shona, that would be Churu Chamadziva.
Yes.
And Dziva is Mlambo.
Yes.
Mlambo is Mbetsi.
And that's, of course...
This is water.
Yes.
Yeah.
So but Churu Chamadziva actually means when the girls are going for that snake dance in the pool, you must go to a pool. That's Dziva in Shona.
Yes.
So if you find Churu Chamadziva,
yes,
you are saying you found an anthill in the midst of water.
Yeah.
And that's rare.
And of course, in terms of court speech, as the commoners will call water Madi.
Madi.
But
Shona is Mvura.
Yes, but then in the royal household, they will either call it Rushika or Madziva.
Madziva.
Yes. You don't speak like that outside. Yeah. That's the language they have inside. And indeed, if you are not, well, I guess for some of us who were a bit lucky, they used to teach that in school. I mean,
so it's like Venda is two languages.
Well, yes.
One for the commoners.
Yes.
Yeah, one for
royals.
Yeah, but above, beyond that, I think on average, when you think of the Venda language, I think you have probably about maybe 5 or 6 dialects.
Take me through. Yeah. All the time. Take me through. The first one is, it's my chance to learn about my grandmothers. So yeah. I'm not in a hurry.
So the one that you find, they use that even on Parapara FM predominantly, that is the dialect you call Chipani. Chipane, and that was just.
And in Shona, Chipane, Mupane is the tree.
Okay.
Where you get Masonja.
Yes.
So Chipane, Ula, one belonging to the Mupanes, but it's fine.
And
so
then
Chipane is the first one.
And I guess very much like the Pedi language. You know, the average person in Venda, when they look at people in what used to be the Libua homeland, the North Sotos, they used to call everybody Pedi. For a simple reason that when the German missionaries arrived in that part, they worked amongst the Pedi, wrote the Bible in the Pedi dialect, hymn book, and then and that also became the Pedi dialect. And interestingly enough, the Pedi dialect itself within the North Soto language is not even the most dominant. Yeah. It's probably about 10%, if one can put it like that.
The deeper Pedi is which one?
But then, in the end, everybody assumes everybody there is Pedi simply because when the original
language, etc.
When it was written officially in the Bible, which was probably the first book written in that language, it was in the Sipedi dialect. So you end up with a situation where somebody or people simply assume everybody there is Pedi. So
I mean, like Shona is 13 clicks.
Yes.
And when someone says I speak Shona, you say, no, the Karangas, the Korekores, there's the Zulus, the Manikas.
And they're Venda as well.
Yes,
and
so someone knows, what tribe are you?
Yes.
And it's like I must cringe to say Shona. But I know that in me saying I'm Shona,
yes,
I'm agreeing to the colonial language,
yes,
of standardizing,
yes,
13 tribes.
Yes.
So even what they call it kore,
yes,
which is now in South Africa they call it kwere.
Yes.
There's actually a tribe in South Africa.
Yes.
Kore.
Yes.
But because people cannot pronounce kore,
Then
they say everyone from Zimbabwe is kwere. So no, sorry. I can agree to be kwere.
Yes.
But I'm not kwere.
Yes.
I'm kore.
Kore.
By the time I understand that I'm kore.
Yes.
Understand that there are 13 other tribes around me.
Yes.
And kore does not represent all of us. Kore is actually found. You still have to deal with the Karangas and deal with Manyikas and the Zulus, which are 13 independent other tribes, including the vendors.
And that one, I guess, kore, somebody misunderstood it. And in the end, kore ended up becoming kwere, which meant nothing like how some people use it. If you,
derogative.
Yeah, when you are. But then when you consider that there is an extent group of people called the kore. Somebody may not have understood. I mean, there was a time apparently when somebody assumed every refugee from the then Rhodesia was kore, I guess.
No, kore. So
these
if
guys
the
were very
Congolese
close
became
to
kore,
yes,
the Zimbabwean became kore, the Mozambican became kore, because like the Tswanas
yes,
look at the Ndebelers and say, Makimatebele.
Yes.
Okay. Kimasili.
Yes.
And then you blanket everyone from that region.
And I think somewhere along the way there might be a need to simply unpack that, because there is a whole lot of injustice which is happening on account of that. But just to finish with these dialects that you have within the Venda language. So the Chipani dialect is the one that you'll even find on...
I want you to hold it right there.
Okay.
When you come back after the break, I want to hear... You said 6?
Yeah, I think they're about 5 or 6, yes.
5 or 6.
Yes.
I want him to take us through the 5 or 6 dialects in the Venda culture, yes, and then I'll move over to Makadzi.
Yeah.
And
yes,
then unearth a bit of what is happening in the Venda women. And by the way, if you are single out there, you're a young man, you're in Germany, you're in America, you're looking for a wife. No, I'm not joking.
Yes.
If you're looking for a wife, between me and you, now take advice from me. You won't find a wife anywhere else in the world better than Venda women.
Make massive moves.
The space race has already started.
Russia had got the first object in space.
The coast is as wild today as it was when Europeans settled the continent.
Enormous beasts with enormous thirst. The teens are primed and ready.
They got the first animal in space, and they got the first person.
Time to see what the boys can do.
Make massive moves with Starsat. Make massive moves.
How can you say that?
That is what it is.
Your mother eloped with someone else.
I just think this is such a genius idea. I think it's amazing.
I can be happy.
It's inside you. It's inside of all of us.
It's about cooking smart that are nutritious and delicious.
President Trump acknowledging the coronavirus death toll could be significantly higher.
We don't want to do this.
There is nothing you can take.
Surviving roommates scared.
The heavyweights arrive.
Inside finds Petulia, blocked by Jane.
This is the will of God.
Make massive moves with Starsat. Make massive moves.
Isn't that your daughter's bib? But the truth is, I feel like Arabella's always with me.
Don't you ever forget this man's face. He killed your brother.
Don't shoot! Please don't shoot! Don't shoot!
Make massive moves with Starsat.
Give me a few moments just to pick up on the 5 dialects or 6 dialects on the Venda cultural space languages. The first one that we heard is Mapane.
No. The first one is Chipani.
Okay.
I'll maybe say a little bit afterwards, and then you have Chimbezi. That one.
That's mine.
Yeah, you'll find it in the.
No, go deeper on that one because that one speaks to me. Jalele and further up towards the north.
It's towards the east, the eastern part of Venda. The Mbezis, these are the rainmakers, very powerful people, if you want to put it like that. And then you also had Chirembetu. You'll find it Chipani. Chimbezi, then you are going to have Chirembetu. You'll find it around Chirembetu. You'll find it around Mutare area.
Mutare?
That area called Hamutere.
But you remember also in Zimbabwe, Mutare?
Yes. Yeah, but this one is Mutere. And then you have Chinia, if you can put it like that.
Chinia.
Yeah, and this is the area which is probably, as the crow flies. I mean, the area that is just adjacent to the South African Zimbabwean border on the Limpopo.
I was born
on the Limpopo.
I want us to address also this thing of colonialism.
Yes.
When you get to Limpopo, the river, the next biggest river that you find is
Mwanezi, yes.
After Mwanezi is Lundi.
Yes.
Runde,
yes.
I was born between Runde
and Mwanezi. Yeah, we also have Mwanezi.
And by then, there was no border gate.
There was no border gate.
Yeah.
So, and actually, we used to see lights when I was sitting in Chilonga. I was born in Chilonga.
My aunt used to work in Zimbabwe. Then they would walk from Zimbabwe to come back home.
Yeah.
So Chilonga was actually, and when we were there, we were actually seeing lights across the South African side. And I remember aunties getting married, and all it meant that
it was just
cows were crossing rivers from one river to the other in one beautiful big family. And for South Africa right now to begin to say South Africa cuts off at Limpopo.
Yeah, no.
And yet Zimbabwe actually has more than 15-20% Venda people.
Across
the border.
No, like I was pointing out the last time. As we speak right now, in terms of land area, the Venda that you have in Zimbabwe presently is bigger than the one that you now have in South Africa. Even though the one you currently have used to be bigger than what it is right now. So, and I mean, of course, throw in politics, everything goes.
Because in that case, what you do is that from Zimbabwe, you take from Toyando, then Pipi the area. Then you get into the northern, the Njalele part, further up into what now they call Bed Bridge or Musina. Then you cross over the river, you move from Bed Bridge itself, you put Jimenezi, Chituripasi, you pick Gwanda, you move right up into Felabusi, which is actually the borders of Bulawayo. And that's about 400 kilometers further into Zim. Then you slice through Filabusi and further down through Mberengo. And then you even capture, when you come towards Bulawayo, you capture Njelele, you capture Matopos, then the lower part of Plum Tree, then you curve back into Vendaland. So when you are looking at the Vangona, Bambedzi, the Venda tribes, it's not actually limited by the border. You must actually move as far down towards Botswana and as further up towards Mozambique and right into Masvingo. And then come right down into Cancer of Capricorn, whatever, Capricorn, the thing, towards the lower part. Then that whole area, from the sea to the Botswana area, it's all Vangona tribe.
In fact, let me just finish with the dialects.
Chipane?
Yeah, well, we had Chipani, we had Chimbezi, Chirembetu, Chinia.
And 5?
And then you have Chimanda. Yeah, you find it around this area called Rwamondo, and then you have
Rwamondo. Where is the Rwamondo?
Rwamondo.
After Chakuma, do you know Chakuma?
Chakuma, yes.
Yeah, on your way towards Toyando. Towards Toyando.
Makado, from Lois Richard, which is now called Makado.
Big bushes and
yes.
big avocados there.
Yeah.
Bananas.
And then you have Chironga and finally Chirafuri.
Chironga.
So, Chironga. And you have
listen to that very carefully.
Yes.
Chironga.
Yes.
And I was born in Chilonga.
Yo.
Chilonga is in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
And
that's where Chironga. Some of this, like if someone says I'm Lozi or I'm Rosi.
Yes.
Remember, all dialects
are
not punctuated by.
Yes. Yeah. And then I think
so. Chironga.
Yeah.
I just interrupted you.
Chironga, Chirafuri, and then
Chirafuri,
also
that's not Hari. Chirafuri.
And then the 8th one will be Chikaranga. That's an you know.
Chikaranga is now. You are now talking to us now.
You know, I mean,
in Mukaranga.
Yeah, I mean, in the Venda language.
You are Karanga.
Because my ancestors, my grandparents, they are originally from Zimbabwe.
Yes. No, I'll teach you today.
Okay.
That's not a Zimbabwe.
Okay.
Say Z.
Zimbabwe.
Z.
Zimbabwe.
No, Z.
Z.
Z means established.
Yeah.
Then? I will show you. No, I remember you are sitting here with an African Shona Guru.
Okay.
Z. When someone is sitting down in an establishment, Wagara, what is Z? It's established. It's comfortable. Z means situated, planted, solid.
Yes.
Mba. Say that after me.
Mba.
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 Mba
means a house. Mba. Mba means a house, can also mean sing. That's where the himba, imba, imba, sing, tula, sing, imba. Then like means stones, rocks.
Okay.
So when you come around and say Z,
Mba.
Makes sense now. So in Shona, you need to respect every consonant because it has. You as Venda people, I know you have beauty of your language, but since I'm your grandmother, in terms of language, the Karangas in the Mwenemtapa, the Rosis, the Toy and Do, Sorore and So, the Toveras and etc. So let's teach you as our children, your grandchildren. See, means we are established. Mbo. It's a house, solid and strong.
Yes.
Yeah, so and it's not going anywhere.
On the rock. Yeah.
And I think maybe just on that one, even in present day, you know, the Venda language that we have today, you know, this a suffix that you have for Z, mba, we. There are various variations of that he, which all refers to a stone.
Okay.
Yeah, so it could be either a hair like H-E, H-E,
or B-W-G-E.
Yes, or even
H-W-E.
Bwe, like what you have Mapungu Bwe.
Yes.
That B-W-E will be referring to rocks. Hair like in Zinga will also be referring to...
Where is Zimbahe?
Zinga is one of the villages that you have.
I'm interested in that.
Yes.
Because when you say Zingahe,
yes,
it can actually be
no, it's probably about...
Because if hair and hair are the same,
yes,
then even Zimbahe,
yes,
in Venda, it's actually a translation.
Yes, I mean even across the Limpopo, when you are in the northeastern area, there's an area called Maviri Kwe. So you are going to have he, gwe,
the sun went down when you are amongst the rocks.
Yes.
Kulira,
yes,
when the sun goes down.
Yeah.
So when you say maviri, it means the sun went down when you are crossing over those rocks.
Yes. So what I wanted to just finish off with these dialects, you know, so unfortunately now, because of standardization, the dominant, when people speak the Venda language, even for mother tongue purposes, they are basically speaking the Chipani dialect. That's what you'll find even in on the radio, even on TV, on what have you. Again, for the simple reason that the first people who wrote in the Venda language, the German missionaries, they arrived there in 1872, landed in a deep Wupani area, So naturally, and indeed the first written anything in the Venda language was written by the German missionaries. I think it must have been the gospel of one of the gospels. And they wrote it in the Chipani dialect, in the same manner that the German missionaries among the North Sotos wrote it in the Sepedi dialect.
A friend of mine, yes, the chief himself.
Yes,
the gospel arrived in the Venda area through Wachibase.
Yes,
and you actually find in that whole clique. One of my big friends actually, Mahamba.
Okay.
Mahamba. He was actually translating the English hymn book into Venda.
Yes.
And he's a good friend of mine.
Actually, the Chivases were the ones who welcome Chief Chivase Ligegise. I think he was a monarch from around 1865, and he died. And we don't say he died. Odzama. A chief does not die.
Kudzama. In Shona, Kudzama, it means you went down.
Yes.
You went deeper.
Yes, I think in 1900. But then when the German missionaries first arrived, they arrived in his territory. Not next to his royal palace, but in one of the areas that one of his younger brothers, Masia Gwal, was the overlord. So I'm just trying. So when you take, for example, the Chikaranga dialect, you know this figs that you find on the ground, Magarangapasi.
Magarangapasi. The ones that are sitting down.
I mean, the actual word for those is Magarangapasi. I mean, from the Chikaranga dialect of that. Now they call them Magarangapasi. I mean, more of an acceptable, perhaps, modern day Venda translation. And unfortunately, some of these other dialects, because of the dominance of this
Chipane
standardized one that is used even for mother tongue education, you write your something in the Venda language and you write it in your dialect. Chances are they were going to mark you down. Though I understand these days.
Even Shona, they did that when they were standardizing Shona.
They acknowledged.
Then they collected all the. I remember when I was in Form 1, my first grade in high school, and my Shona teacher asked me to write a composition.
Yes.
And I wrote a composition
in your dialect.
Karanga.
Yes.
But she was a Zulu.
Yes.
And she looked at my piece of
paper. See, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with you?
Where they say BWE, which is okay. I put BG.
Yes.
WE.
Yes. Yes.
You know? And then they say, no, Shonas don't use L.
Yes.
Then, but can I do Munwadzana Shaka? Unoridza Shaba. And you say that, write the name Shaba for me. Shaba is HL.
Yes.
And then, but standardized Shona says, Shonas don't use L.
Yes.
But in our speech, we actually have words that actually have the click of the L. I know I did not do justice to.
Yeah, no problem.
When we come back after the break, we shall maybe me and Chief. I think we can actually have a full session here, just unpacking and having conversation around the greater space of the African cultures. Don't go away. We'll be back right after the break.
Okay.
Make massive moves.
Isn't that your daughter's bib? But the truth is, I feel like Arabella's always with me.
Don't you ever forget this man's face. He killed your brother.
Don't shoot! Please don't shoot! Don't shoot!
Make massive moves with Starsat.
Tech Talk brought to you by Tamani Technologies and Systems. Tamani Technologies and Systems takes leadership in fourth industrial revolution. The whole world is facing a transformation. The revolution will be developed into the following stages: digitization, cyber security, Internet of Things, managed services, document management, and business applications. We provide business transformation and ICT solutions with presence in 13 African countries and 2 European countries. We are your leading partner in integrated platform providers, innovation leaders, standalone products, and innovation pace setters. Tamani Technologies and Systems, delivering value across continents.
Make massive moves.
Bible is human and divine.
It's important for us to remember.
And I'm part of God's story.
God is sealing you.
God says what he means, and he means what he says.
God is good.
I am very grateful to God. I am healed. Amen.
Make massive moves with Starsight.
Africa, 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 we are here. We're not going anywhere. For the first time on media itself, we have real African people talking about themselves, relating, remembering, reminiscing, recollecting, all the words that you hear with you have to do with looking back. This time around, no script, no nothing. We get to hear real stories, real information from the indigenous people. And with me here, Wahurwane was taking me through Mpumalanga, was taking me through the greater spaces of the Venda cultures, the 5 or 6 dialects, if not 8 dialects that are found in the Venda tribe. I just meant to memorize the Chikoe, Chipane. Then of course I can't miss Chimbezi,
Chirembetu, Chinia, Chimanda, Chironga
also means Koronga, means also organizing.
Chirafuri, and then of course Chikaranga. Yes. And then I mean just a few examples. The last time we were here, you were asking about famous Venda foods. In the Chipani language, I think we told him about Chizimba.
Chizimba.
The guys in the East, the Mbezi and the Remit, will call Chizimba Manyimba. They won't call it Chizimba, they will call it Manyimba. I mean, the differences are very minor. You go to one part of Venda, like, let's say, Wirafuri. In Bupani, if somebody is descending, we'll say Ukoutsa. Ukoutsa. They will say Ukonyurua. And if this person was going up,
Unyura means he's going down. So someone is drowning in a river.
Yes.
Wanyura means it's going down.
So just there. Remember, the one that's saying Ukonyurua is the western part of Venda, which is very close to you.
Yes.
Remember, most people who stays in the western part, they derive from Z.
Yes.
Ba.
So those were just, and I think maybe the other one, if you go to Buronga and somebody was going down.
Let's just call it Chironga.
Yeah, and they were, let's say, descending, maybe down an incline. In Bupani, you will still say Ukoutsa, but those ones will say Ukoteua. Yes. And then, so.
Kuteura in Shona means pouring down.
Yeah, so this one, you will say Ukoteua. And in the west, in Urafuri, if you were going up, they will say Ukonyuha. And then in this area, in the Chinia dialect, if you were taking a shortcut, I think in the Chipani dialect, you will say Obvangandirea Chikau. Chikau, like a shortcut. They will say Obvanga ino Runzo. Instead of Gaya Chikau. And when you take the long detour, they will say, "Oh, bagay no huiro." Whereas
no, don't hurry me.
Yes,
I'm deeply rooted.
Okay.
In Shona, when I do my totems, we say "Tisuboko huiro." When huiro, then it would mean we are the ones who take the longer route.
Okay.
Yes. We are patient.
Yes. Yeah. So. Then they were
when you are cutting, Wagurira.
Okay.
Gura is cut.
Oh, it's to cut, okay.
Gurira.
Okay.
Means cutting it short.
Yeah. So I mean, just to finish, so basically, unfortunately, yes, when you go to those areas, you will still find people who will be conversing in this, but unfortunately, this whole idea of standardization, coupled with the fact that maybe for the longest of time, if you were writing your composition in the Venda language, they will expect you to write it in this other dialect that somehow everybody understood it to be the proper way. When in fact, I mean, language has got many dialects. The same thing, you have the same thing. Like you said, within the Shona, you have 13 dialects, if you can put it like that.
Actually, more honestly, yes, there's nothing called Shona.
Yes, yeah, indeed, there isn't.
Because you are looking at colonization now, bundling 12 tribes together, and then they decide what they're going to call you. So, Mashona. And then you come to the Zulus and say, no, Mashona, because when we're beating them up, they were running and disappearing into the mountains. Ukshona means hiding. So that your name is derogative.
Yes.
To say Shonas are cowards.
Yeah, indeed.
They're the ones who are running away and hiding in the caves.
Yes.
So no, then someone says, are you Shona? I say, I'm not Shona. I'm Karanga.
Yes.
Let me just move over to Vumakadzi. I know me and Angoli here, we just clicked and almost you were like you're not here, but in your audience, I'm humbled. And she's the one who made for me this beautiful dress here that I'm putting on here. And take me through this. Take me through Vumakadzi, into the vendor. Tell me, what am I looking like today?
Actually, this we was just trying to give you a feel. Mwenda wabavenda.
Mwenda is what?
Mwenda, it's our attire. This it's called Mwenda.
Mugara Mwenda. No, I'm speaking Shona now. I'm in my tribe. Remember, we are very close. So when you say Mwenda, Mwenda actually in Shona means the one who is going.
Okay.
Yes. Mwenda.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So Mwenda are the clothes for the journey.
Okay. All right.
So when say Venda Mwenda, it would actually mean these are the clothes.
Okay.
Those that traveled past here.
All right. If you say so. Okay. Yeah, but Mwenda we ndabambatsa wone. Ndi Mwenda wa mwana wa msidzana. It's not
the bottom part.
It's not made for male. So you are only allowed to put the top part, but the bottom part, this bottom part ambariwa ga musidzana mtuku achikwambara musisi.
Here we go. Remember, we said when you find a young girl with this thing on here, it means no go area. You don't lift this thing to see what is at the bottom there before you go and see my fathers, before you go and see my uncles, before you go talk to my tribe, before you open this. So this is actually a wall that tells you when you are finding a vendor girl with this mwenda on. What do you call this? The small thing? What do you call it? What's the name for this?
Well, I mean, when it is all proper, it will also have the back part.
The back part.
I cannot show them my back.
No,
I don't know. It will it will have a back. This is a musisi.
Musisi.
Yeah, musisi.
And but when it is means sister.
Yeah, when it is some will call it mukasi.
Mukasi.
Yeah, mukasi. Yeah, so it will.
Then in Shona mukadzi means a woman.
Okay. But this is mukasi.
Mukasi.
Mukasi. Mukasi.
Okay. So yes, there you have it. This is mukasi. This is usually used by vendor young ladies, but I thought for the purposes of dynamics of culture, let's bring it on, then we can show it mwenda. And this one, men are allowed to put on this one, but first time in the history of TV, you actually have a man putting on a woman's thing, no go area. And I think because now we're dealing with a sexless society where men and women are confused, they don't know who is male, who is female. So even I have this one on also, it means you cannot open this until you've gone to see my mother and my father. And there we have it. These lines that go down like this represent the tribes of the Mbedzis and the ones from the east. The east, is it?
Yeah, those vertical stripes.
They are on your shirt also.
Yeah, this will probably. Yeah, you will find this kind of pattern in the Bupani area in the eastern part. If you were from the west, they will be.
Then they will go.
They will be horizontal.
So the horizontal would represent the western tribes.
No, not with the embroidered part.
Here.
On the on that part.
These ones.
Go this way.
These ones.
So where they are like vertical, that kind of a dress from the western side, it will be.
And these are from the east.
Yeah, that will be from the central part, Bupani, and also going on to the east. But don't worry about putting on a female part, because it's always a first time for everything.
We have written history. Let's just dig a little bit deeper into the role of women in the Venda culture.
Where do I start?
At the beginning. At the beginning, before you get pregnant, what is a Venda woman doing before she decides to make a child? The Himba in Namibia, the day she decides she wants a child, she leaves the family quarters, goes to a big tree, sits under a tree. She won't leave that tree until she hears a song.
Okay.
Then she sings that song. That song belongs to the child that she will make.
Oh.
She leaves the tree and goes to her husband. And teaches the husband
the song.
The song.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Which
That's
she
deep.
had under the tree.
Oh, okay.
By the time they are sleeping together to make the baby, the song must be sung.
Okay.
You are calling from the other side.
That's deep.
When the child is finally born, and they fall on the ground, the song is sung.
Okay.
They cry, the song is sung. The community is taught
to
sing
that particular song.
So that when I'm down and I'm out, the community, the family, my father and mother can remind me
who I am
before I came here.
Oh.
And these are the Himba tribes, right? In Namibia.
Yeah.
So I really want to push and find out in the Venda culture, when a woman is by herself and she's being herself, thinking, preparing, planning, what is happening in a Venda woman's mind? Pardon me, I'm pushing you quite there.
That's too deep.
Nobody can fly. I'm pulling you from the deep waters. Yes, or I'm pushing you down, I'm pulling you out, I don't know.
You're doing both. You're doing the pushing and the pulling at the same time. Yeah. So what happens is that as young girls, as we growing up as young girls, there are things that we are taught as Venda young girls. There are initiations that we go through. As I said before, the previous show, I said there are other things that we cannot go deep. We cannot. I cannot say them because they are. It's called. It's a secret. It's our secret. So maybe we should.
I did my research. I bribed some girl in Venda. I bribed her. She shared me 6 songs. She gave me 6 songs, sacred songs, but I can't share them.
Sacred songs, you see.
But I bribed.
See, bribery has been happening, eh? So yeah, then we'll go through the initiations according to ages, according to different ages, and then when a woman is ready to get married, unlike what is happening today. You see, today a girl comes and tells that she found someone. But then, when a child is born here, already we know this girl is going to be married
there.
Already we know this one is going to be married at the Sekhitha's house. But nowadays, a Venda girl brings a Zulu guy.
And by the way, congratulations, Miss South Africa. South Africa is Venda. Which tribe is she from?
Masia.
Who is around that area there?
Well, that predominantly back in the day, the people living in that area will be Varaudzi. Yeah, Varaudzi Vagwa Masenga.
Vagwa.
Vagwa Masenga.
Vagwa in Shona means the fighters.
Okay, Vagwa Masenga.
Vasenga, the ones who carry.
Back in the day, they used to live between the...
It's...
Yeah.
Every day, every time there's something that is clicking with.
Actually, if you speak in Venda, it's so nostalgic. It's like when I'm hearing someone speaking in Venda, in my head, you are still talking, but my mind is actually picking up the word you spoke, and I remain, okay, this means this. So I miss Venda language because when I listen, I get caught up in and when I by the time you're on the ending the paragraph, me I'm still on the first 3 words that you spoke in the sentence. You were still telling us something about.
Do you also think we speak fast?
Yes, you speak fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, you speak fast. Shona is slower.
Mara riyazama uri ite ngasutuku uri vatu vakone uripfa.
It's all yours. You are taking us through this show. When a woman will know she's getting married there.
Robert Shidandi kadiamba Maponga uri hezula kade hozoba zwishidibiwa uri mwana wa ka hoyo.
Diva, we know. No, just go on. Don't worry about me.
From this family,
hoyo
mutana hola ba marerana. Zvino kachipinga cha zvino zonoshanduka rine
bana is time kushanduka
bana bazvino baya bako
children. Just go.
Okay, bana bazvino bakokona uri vamare across the board. Mwana wakono uri ayamariwe seri yamalwanje ene palatsine na rine kana ayamariwe Natala.
Just decide where they want.
Amariwe Eastern Cape.
They just move from provinces to provinces.
Which are because of time.
I want to translate now. I want a tender for translating.
Uyanga hachifinga.
Yeah, with time.
Rikotendera na
we agree.
Rosuka hera kono ustanganeza no ritende.
Put everything together.
Uri vana vashuba ko disa chanduko kashangolash.
Our children want to
and they change. Intercultural.
Yes, they are doing intercultural marriages.
But maybe just on that one, this girl who's already promised to that family, that process is called ufunga chikunwe.
Ufunga
chikunwe, like the small toe.
In Shona also ufunga is to think about your small toe.
Yes, ufunga
is thinking.
Chigumwe is a toe.
Yeah. That's why
kusunga means tying a string around a small toe.
Okay.
So kusunga chigumwe means binding yourself.
Yeah, it's like you're committing. And then just briefly, when you are coming to inquire whether she's available or not, one of the fees that they will charge you is called Mapanganyi, or basically who told you there is a lady available here. Because for all we care, I mean, she's already promised to somebody. So when you come, you
must come first. Even when you're not coming to marry, you must pay to find out, is she available?
Whether she is or not, you have to pay, because remember,
you must pay for us to give you the information. We have children, but in Shona, even when they're getting married, if it's someone in Zulu, then we come here to pay Lobola, what. Then they bring all the girls, and they're walking past, and they say, which one? Which one did you say you want to marry here? And then you must now say, no, that one there. Because maybe the one you want has been spoken for.
Yeah.
So nakachivenda zvitu angotoraro.
It's also done the same.
Zvitu angotoraro nakachivenda. But all the same age.
Young girls come together. They pick young girls same age. When you say you want to marry one of them, they bring all the young girls same age.
So hoya mutana kudumara ute uri abasumbe aneba kudumumara kabala.
The one who has come here, when they put 15 or 10, 20 of these young girls, they're all parading. You is coming to pick up. He must say, number 5.
No, but you know what? This one.
Number 3 or number 2.
No. This one is even worse. They are actually covered.
They are covered in a blanket.
Huh?
They are covered.
They are all covered.
I mean, you know who you want to marry. So you can't tell people, well, she's covered, I don't know who
she is. So she must give you a tip before you go.
Well,
others going to make a mess. Is that I'll put on a ribbon, or my dress is, or how do you know now?
The onus is upon you. You are the one who's marrying, eh?
You must know.
So you must know who you're marrying.
This is tricky. In vendor culture, apparently, all these 15, 10, 7 or 20 young ladies, same age, in many cases, even same shape and look, they are all covered.
Yes.
And they come and lie down here, Worocha.
Yes.
And you, when they are all covered on the ground here, you must be able to pick up which one
is yours.
So if I pick up the wrong one, that's the one I'm taking.
You can't be serious. No, you can't be serious.
You don't know what you want.
Why would you pick the wrong one? Then you're not serious.
Because they are covered.
No.
Must give me some tricks here.
Well, if you...
How do I know which one? Now I have 15 girls here. All of them.
Remember, the person that you're coming to marry, you know.
Yes.
And you know his sisters.
You must know them covered.
You know his sisters. You see Ukoko, if I stand with Ukoko is taller than me. She's curvaceous, more curvaceous than me. So even in that blanket, you should be able to identify that that's the one.
Remember,
but it's covered and not covered in a wenda, in a blanket. Underneath, she'll be wearing her wenda, but she's covered in a blanket.
Inside, and you must identify her.
You have to identify
behind the blanket,
and she's covered. Even the head, like
that one is mine.
And all the girls are not allowed to.
So when you marry a vendor woman, you must actually marry with the eyes closed. Then you must actually have a rough
eyes open. With eyes open. And guess what? Those other girls, all those girls that comes,
they're also tempting you.
No, all those girls that comes, they get paid for doing that.
Okay.
That's not for free.
Marengwa.
They get paid. So girls love it when their sister's getting married. They get excited because they know, hey, we're gonna cash.
It's a cash time.
But you know, just going back to this idea of her being covered. Remember, she was promised to your family, sometimes even before she was born. So, so
before she was even born.
Yeah, so
in some certain cases, maybe someone actually dreamt the vision that we are going to be a son born here, there'll be a girl born there. These are going to meet, and this is what's going to come out.
So, which means you will be knowing her because right from even before she took in her first gulp of oxygen,
you were already.
Remember, she was already promised. So you know her. You cannot tell people.
You know what you're saying?
You can't tell her apart
when
from others.
When I was mentioning the Himba tribes, you looked like, oh, that's quite interesting.
Yes.
But actually, even the vendor culture, marriage actually happens before birth.
Yes.
In some instances, it will happen before. Yeah, it will happen.
We're talking about the original, not
now,
not today.
You know, this is Angofa. Yes. When children are going to be watching this program after we're gone, we're leaving a footprint. Yes. This is how it used to be done. Yes. You find a parting shot in the last minute.
And I guess on account of that, there was always a preference for girl children back in the day. Remember, when she's married, the standard bride price is 8 cows.
8.
Maro. The vendor word for number 8, Maro, is also the word for Umara to marry. Yeah. So it had to be 8.
So maybe the white people borrowed from us. When they say, I want to marry you, because Maro, Maro is...
in fact,
Maro
if you take it even further, you find that very common within the Afrikaans language. Remember, that is, in South Africa, that is the only language that was born and bred here. All the others came. Forget about other people who appropriated it, but that one was born.
Maro. Is number 8.
So I was saying...
And by the way, in alchemy, 8 means new beginnings.
Yeah.
So you are starting a new family, and the number 8 represents... If I had time, I would actually begin to count. You may find this technology written somewhere here. You're parting shots, Mama, to the African women out there. What are you telling them today?
I'm saying... let's go back to where we come from. Let's teach our children. Let's teach our young girls who we are. Because today, our young girls, they don't even know how Urosha, Batuba Urani. They go, hello.
as we are going out, Womakadzi will rocha here. And while she's lochering on the ground here, my name is Maponga J. Garamboko, Garamashamba, Chira, Navavanji. Chibwiteza chino kugwa na mama walikuwa wanatamba nacho. Mtambo ruparo ware. Tizwana chigarama kwa matanda noora. Tizwana chinamba kusisira mponango kubwa na masha kumagaro. Na mshamba ne gore wila miti ya sose. Chiwere mshamba. Tizwana mkanya. Pabari jemedzano. Until we see again. Don't do what I wouldn't do. But if you decide to do it better. And I will not find a better gift to give to my African chief here. This same snake skin, I bought it in Benin when I was in Benin, up in Nigeria.
Okay.
And since he's an elder of the community, allow me to pass on this gift to him. Going forward, Chief, when you're going to be talking in the community, I want to hand you over this piece of oil stick. Let it be in your hands until we meet again. Here we are.